How's it going? My name is Mike Nicholas. I'm the Director of Athletic Development here at Accelerated Sports Performance. As an athlete, I was a three-time All-American at Robert Morris as a defensive back. I want to come on here and talk a little bit about some of the techniques that are starting to gain a little bit more popularity, more specifically a crossover step or a shuffle from the defensive back position. I think as it's starting to grow popularity, there's been some misconceptions about how to use the technique. I was fortunate enough to have worked under and played under Scott Benzel and Dan Radakovich, who only taught the shuffle or crossover technique. So as a collegiate player, I never learned how to backpedal. We only used the crossover shuffle technique. So I want to jump on here and talk about some of the misconceptions, things that I'm seeing around that coaches are kind of misguiding the technique, and some things that can help you along the way as you're starting to use this technique. Just like there's a difference between a back pedal run, there's definitely a difference between the back pedal from a defensive back position, even from a corner all the way up to a safety. And just like in a shuffling for performance, there is a difference in it when we're using it from a defensive back position. So what we're going to kind of talk about is the stance, actually how we move backwards and keep ourselves in an advantageous position to not only come up, but also to move backwards. Okay, so when we talk about the initial stance and kind of getting into what I'm seeing now, is if, and to kind of set the framework of, we'll call ball inside, this line or this seam right here will be where the receiver's at or aligned up, okay? And this over here will be our sideline. What I'm seeing now is just your traditional shuffle. The athletes are lining up like this, and they're just shuffling. And what you're also now getting is coaches seeing that and saying that the downside of that position is anywhere running and out, because now I have to work all the way and turn that way. And again, it's just going to take some time. So from my experience of doing it for 4 years, my initial setup is I'm still going to be a little bit more open. Okay, again, balls inside, quarterback's right there. I'm going to line up like this. Okay, so not only can I see the receiver, but I also can see and read my triangle. Okay, so I can see my tackle, my quarterback, and my running back, but I'm also opened up to that receiver. And again, if we're putting this in context, I'm lined up inside from a man perspective. Okay, I'm generally going to be anywhere from 6 to 8 yards off the ball, depending on down distance, situation, and scheme. As I pedal back, and I'll kind of talk about what the pedal should look like. Okay, and if I start with this side, my initial setup, my chest is moved forward. Okay, I'm putting more emphasis on a front loaded compared to a back loaded, only because the way we're going to talk about it is our mechanics and our setup are going to bring us forward. Our momentum will bring us backwards. So I'm always going to be set up here. That way, when I do need to come up for any underneath route, I have the ability to do so. If I need to go back, I'm just going to allow momentum to continue to carry me backwards. So as I pedal or I shuffle backwards, I'm bringing this foot, okay, toe to heel this way, that way, staying forward. My goal, and I think this is going to be what's driving me, okay, it's moving me backwards, okay, it's going to be moving me depending on my leverage. I'm always going to set up this foot to allow myself to come downhill. If we kind of think it, from a broader perspective, you've got 10 spaces or 10 routes that a receiver can run. 7 of those are up. So mentally, I always figured I'm going to be ready to come downhill at any time. And again, momentum's going to carry me back if I have to get into more of a crossover step. So if I'm here, I'm opened up a little bit, and I'm just going to sit this way, always preparing myself to come up. Now, if we start to get a receiver that starts you stemming, okay, instead of trying to move with it and close myself off, I'm still going to maintain that open kind of position in the shuffle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my heel to that toe, and it's going to allow me to shuffle inside. So if I'm here and I'm opened up, I'm that way. I'm still open and I can see, and I'm still allowing them to slowly close that cushion. Same thing this way. If I'm going, if I get stemmed outside, now I'm going toe to back heel. So I'm here, toe to back heel. That way. And again, I'm always setting up that back leg to be prepared to go forward. So one of the downsides to this, and again, we're going to talk coming up first before we talk backwards, okay, is it does make it a little bit more difficult for the receiver, or for the defensive back to drive on an out. One of the big reasons I like having a little bit more open stance is if I got to drive on the out, there's just a couple inches that I need to move before I can actually drive on it. Okay, compared to what I'm seeing a lot now, is if I'm here and I'm closed, that takes a lot of time and there's a lot of space that I can't see. So again, with that open shuffle technique, I'm here and I can drive on that out right away. Just like on any in, I'm here and all I have to do is drop step this foot a little bit and it angles me down to any slant in, okay, Dover or anything like that. Now when we talk about vertical routes, and again, to every technique there is a weakness. So understanding what your weakness is to come and try to take advantage of it, or at least understand what you can do to overcome them. The post is a little bit easier. As I'm moving here and I hit a post, I'm already open for it. There's two ways to look at if the receiver either A, stems you outside towards the sideline, or B, tries to get behind you. Okay? And again, as a coach and an athlete, I'm a little bit more understanding that not every rep is going to be perfect, that sometimes you have to understand that the receiver's on scholarship too. Okay? The way I approach this, okay, and I'll talk about just kind of if I've given myself space and that depth already, I'm here, and if I see him climb early, I'm going to open and make contact. The downside of that is if we bail too quickly and we come this way, it opens up for him to stem you out and come back in for a post. So we do have to time it up. If you're going to come this way, either you're so far back that it's easy for you to stay over top of it that way, or if he comes this way, he makes contact with you. The other way you're going to do it is just an easy man turn. Okay, so we're going to hit here. As we start to see him climb this way, even if I've got a stem to hold my leverage, I'm going to go into a crossover run and just rip my head around. And again, the downside of that is we lose eyesight of that receiver. And that's where you start to ask the question of, where tactically are we at? What scheme, down distance? My quick thought approach to that, as I'm allowing them to close my cushion, if you kind of think again back to those 10 spaces, that deepest under route is going to be about a 12 to 15 yard out, which is going to be the hardest route that they can run that generally has the most tells. So my goal is I'm going to use my crossover step, my shuffle step, up until I'm about 15 yards, that receiver's at 12 yards. Okay, because I should be able to sniff out a deep out by about that time, and it still gives me the time to get into a crossover or a sprint to stay on top of that receiver and squeeze. So if I'm here and I pedal, I get into my crossover, I go find contact, and I squeeze right away. Your ability to snap that head around and go find contact is really, really important. And at the end of the day, if we do hit a 15-yard out, it gives us the ability to stay on top and still come downhill on it. Hopefully that's a really quick synopsis of how we use the shuffle or crossover technique. And I hope this better prepares you guys as we're using that specific technique.